Wow. Thank you, guys. So great to have everyone here and to see familiar faces. I love you all. Today, I share with you a truth that I've learned throughout the years that I believe will resonate with many of you. God does not waste any challenge, any adversity, any pain, or hardship. That even in the face of the most challenging trials like cancer, there are lessons to be learned. These challenges can shape us into who we are made to be. And through it all, we learn to cherish the moments we have, hold our loved ones a little closer, and find gratitude in the simple joys of life. 3 times in my life, I have been given this perspective of cancer. The first was when I lost my dad to cancer when I was a little girl. Sometimes it's difficult to see the good with such great loss, but it was through his death that the light of Christ came into my life and that of my family. It also taught me valuable lessons about resilience and empathy that shaped me into who I am today. The second was in 2008. I remember lying in bed at the surgery center when my doctor walked in. I could tell by the look on his face that something was wrong. He told me, "We found cancer." I started to cry and I couldn't stop. I was filled with the fear at the thought of not seeing my 4 kids grow up or growing old with Jimmy. At that moment, I instantly flashed back to that time when I was 13 and lost my father to cancer. I had spent my entire life trying to avoid this, and here I was, diagnosed at the very same age, with the very same type of cancer that took my father's life, my grandmother's life, and half of her siblings. I felt hopeless. At that moment, I came face to face with the reality that my days were numbered. I did surgeries to remove the tumors, but even with chemo and radiation, the odds of surviving stage 4 colon cancer was in the single digits. So I declined chemo and radiation. And at home, as I was recovering from my surgeries, I would look over at night and I would see Jimmy searching the internet for anything that could help me. But he wasn't finding much. During this time, we met with a physician who told us about mistletoe therapy. Who would have thought that the plant you see at Christmas was used around the world to treat cancer? And you know what? I was willing to try anything, but because therapies like this are not covered by insurance, I was worried that we would not be able to afford it. And we weren't. Seeing that I had lost my income from being unable to work, but a community of people came around me to help save my life, many of them here in this room tonight. A community of people were willing to give of their resources so I could have a second chance at life. And the combined therapies worked. I'll be forever grateful that they were a part of my story and part of being here today. What I learned throughout that experience profoundly changed me. In moments of fear, it's natural to be consumed by thoughts of limitations, uncertainties about the future, and doubts about our own abilities. Yet I discovered the pathway to overcoming paralyzing fear. I shifted my focus away from myself, and I fixed my eyes on Jesus. I chose to immerse myself in his character, in his promises, and his word. And the fear, it always relented. Fast forward to the fall of this year, and I receive a second diagnosis of endometrial cancer. As some of you know, I have Lynch syndrome, and that predisposes me to multiple cancers and at a younger age. Once again, I was in complete shock. How could this cancer have grown while I was adhering to all the right physical practices? As I struggled with the desire to understand the reasons behind this diagnosis, Jimmy gently reminded me of words that had carried us before. And he said, "Ivelisse, life isn't always a formula. And sometimes things don't go exactly as planned, even when you're doing all the right things. Ultimately, your life is in God's hands, and the question is, do you trust him no matter how this turns out?" My answer to him once again was yes. Some people say that God won't give us anything we can't handle, but I believe that he often allows situations that are too much for us to handle alone. It's in these times that we realize how much we need each other, and most importantly, our need for God becomes obvious. This time, though, I had the opportunity to witness firsthand the immense impact Believe Big has on patients navigating their cancer journey. Unlike the first time, when we were forging new paths, learning as we went, this time, I had the invaluable support of the Believe Big community, its resources, and its network, in large part because of the financial support each of you provide. I was able to walk in peace instead of fear. My healthy practices are what led to the earliest detection possible. But even more than that, I already had an incredible team of integrative doctors in place. I knew who to call and the questions to ask in finding the right surgeon. I know that my Lynch gene was triggered due to a combination of my nervous system being unregulated due to stress and hormone imbalance. Research shows how persistent stress and deregulation of the nervous system can lead to the overproduction of stress hormones like cortisol. This in turn compromises our immune function and increases inflammation. Couple that with hormone imbalance going through my change of life, and we had the perfect storm for cancer to take advantage. Our bodies are a delicate balance of three interconnected facets: the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual. While my spiritual and physical tanks were nearly full, my emotional tank was running on fumes. I am so grateful to be standing before you once again, fully restored. I am living proof of how the resources we provide at Believe Big bring hope, bring help, and healing to so many. Cancer is not a word to be feared when Believe Big is by a patient's side. My story is not unique. For me, it was personally going through cancer, but for you, it could be a friend or a family member that gets diagnosed. I believe every cancer patient should have access to every tool and resource during their cancer journey, and that they shouldn't have to go through it alone, that they should have peace and hope and a community to help them on their cancer journey too. You make that possible. Believe Big helps families with that overwhelming process of treatment by helping to bridge the gap between conventional and complementary medicine to heal in all aspects of life, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. In the last decade, we have helped over 1 million people face, fight, and overcome their cancer. And in the next, And in the next 2 years, we want to surpass 2 million people and helping them to live a long and vibrant life. But it won't be possible without your help. As someone who has experienced our broken system, struggled with the wide range of emotions and the limited financial resources available, I want to ask for your help tonight to change that. I want us to help the cancer patients of today, all the while finding solutions to help the cancer patients of the future. which leads me to the solutions that Believe Big offers. For the patients of today, we educate, we connect, and support. Get this, within 24 hours of contacting Believe Big, our patient advocates link arms with patients and their families to direct them to the resources they need for their care. We are so thankful as an organization that is completely run by donations that we can help to release the financial burdens patients experience by providing nutrition and mistletoe grants. Thanks to your generosity, last year we were able to provide $107,000 in grants, enabling patients to access vital integrative care not covered by insurance. However, we've observed a significant challenge. The first 3 months of a cancer patient journey tends to be the most financially burdensome, as many have not reached their deductibles and must pay out of pockets for their treatments as well. Despite our grants, the cost of mistletoe therapy and integrative care remains a barrier for many. That's why I hope tonight you can help us to change that. We aim to expand our grants to cover not only the initial consult, but also 3 months of mistletoe injections, a life-saving treatment that costs approximately $1,000 per patient. Moreover, your donations ensure that all of our resources are accessible to patients at no cost to them. These resources include informative nutrition webinars, support groups, and even hope packages filled with comforting items for families coping with the loss of their loved ones during the holidays. Our video series, I Have Cancer, Now What?, is available around the clock, offering invaluable guidance to patients navigating their diagnosis. Additionally, our Believe Big podcast, now in its second year, is in the top 3% of podcasts with over 77,000 downloads and listened to in 110 countries. That's amazing. And this remarkable reach just underscores the growing demand for integrative approaches to healing in all aspects of life. The Believe mugs that you see on your table are hand-painted by many of you in this room, and they hold a special significance. They are the essence of how Believe Big began in 2011. A simple act of service that means so much to the patients that receive them. Not everyone has a strong support system, and these Believe mugs infuse patients with hope and encouragement. They remind recipients to believe that with God, all things are possible and that people in their community care. They still hold the I Will Have No Fear prayer that Jimmy compiled for me 15 years ago. This past year, you enabled us to also provide materials for the children at Johns Hopkins Pediatric Oncology, Horizon Day Camp, Cool Kids Camp to paint and receive a mug during their treatments and camp experience. You should see the smiles and giggles on their faces. And because of you, the women at Helping Up Mission were also able to do art therapy and paint Believe mugs for patients this year. If you know of someone who is currently battling cancer, or if you would like to have something to give them when you hear of someone that gets diagnosed, please take one that is on your table tonight, or visit our resource table at the end of the evening. We have enough Believe mugs for each couple to go home with one. And what about the solution for the cancer patients of the future? It lies in 2 ways. The first is to complete all 3 phases of the mistletoe clinical trial in collaborations with the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. You may wonder why this is so crucial for the future. The reason is simple: to ensure that mistletoe therapy can be covered by insurance and become standard of care in oncology. I know you will all find the next 2 slides fascinating. A medical director from Spain shared this image with us at a conference we attended this summer. The image on the left is the physiological pattern of a drop of blood from a healthy cell. The one on the right is a patient with cancer. Now look at what only 4 weeks of mistletoe use does to the cancerous cell. It restores its pattern. Amazing, right? It's no wonder that the meaning of the mistletoe plant is, I surmount all odds. In the United States, most clinical trials are funded by pharmaceutical companies, which have vested interests in bringing a new drug to the market. Unfortunately, it's challenging for remarkable therapeutic substances like mistletoe to undergo rigorous study. Only through our collective efforts can we make this a reality. Last year, we celebrated the completion of phase 1. However, there is more to be done. I have been in discussions with Johns Hopkins and researchers from Germany regarding the design of phase 2. But in order to even begin any phase 2 trial, we need to raise $500,000 of the estimated $1.5 million needed for phase 2. And to date, we have raised $117,000 of that $500,000. And then the second way we're going to stop cancer from stopping us is through the development of the Believe Big Institute of Health. To give you a picture, it's like a St. Jude's, but for integrative oncology and for all ages. The problem with our current model is that once diagnosed, a patient is immediately rushed on a conveyor belt of treatment with only 3 options: chemo, radiation, and surgery. Individuals don't realize that their care should be individualized and not standardized. The other problem is that though integrative oncology programs do exist in academic institutions around the country, they fall short of offering a truly integrated and individualized approach that can change cancer outcomes. It has been forecasted that there will be a doubling of cancer rates by 2030. And today, cancer reoccurrence happens 70% of the time. So clearly, we're not approaching this problem appropriately or successfully. We need the Believe Big Institute of Health now more than ever, and it's envisioned as a place where both patients and survivors can access the best therapies under one roof, regardless of their financial means. Early detection is crucial, as demonstrated in my own journey. And the Institute will also serve as a center for health-minded individuals seeking preventative evaluations or early detection screenings. We know the physical and the spiritual healing components that will be incorporated, and we are currently working on the emotional ones. I am doing a 2-year certification training with the founders of Soul Shepherding. They are giving me the practical skills and experience that Believe Big will then incorporate into the Institute that will help individuals on their cancer journey who have been derailed by stress, discouragement, or nervous system deregulation. It's important, as I learned, to notice the indicator lights on the dashboard of your soul. When your soul lights go red, ignoring them endangers your health and your fruitfulness. I am also inspired by the transformative impact of one man's dream as exemplified by Danny Thomas, who founded St. Jude's Children's Hospital. As you watch the following video, I want you to see the possibility of what we can do, but again, for patients of all ages and all cancers. I leave you with this. It's a story that I don't share very often. And it's the summer after my father's death. I went to summer camp with my youth group. A guest speaker came to speak that week, and on one of the nights as he prayed, he shared with me that God told him that I was going to play an integral role in finding a cure for cancer. I still remember that moment 40 years later. I was stunned, while at the same time intrigued. This man wasn't someone from our church that knew my father's cancer story. I asked the leaders if anyone had mentioned anything to him about my story, and they all said no. For many years, I never shared what he had told me to anyone, not even my mom. And as the years passed by and my life wasn't where I assumed a person who would help find a cure would be, I thought that the preacher had been mistaken and had gotten me confused with someone else. I had an amazing husband and became a proud mom of 4 children. How could I, someone with no medical background, especially in the area of cancer, help to find a cure? But 24 years later, in the middle of my first cancer fight, God reminded me of those very words as I was recovering from liver surgery. I wrote this in my journal. I don't know how or when, but deep within my soul, I know that God is going to use my situation to help find a cure. What I do know is that God has used ordinary people like me in the past to do amazing things, and I'm excited to see how it comes to pass. And I don't believe it's a coincidence that 2 years after I wrote those words, Believe Big was established, and a year after that, the Mistletoe clinical trial team sat down for the first planning meeting, and today we are working on a solution like the Believe Big Institute of Health. There comes a time in all of our lives when we need people that will rally around us to give us the hope, encouragement, and the support that we need. We don't have to go through difficult things alone. Today, you can be that person for someone facing cancer. Thank you.